Hello everyone, welcome to Visuddha congregations. If we ever visit any Hindu temple, we get to see a lot of religious practices being performed. Not every such ritual is consistent across all the temples. Certain rituals are particular to an ethnic group, but of course, there are plenty of rituals which could be common across all the Hindu temples. In this video, I would like to touch upon one such practice, Pradakshinam. We tend to see people move around the circumference of the temples. Let's take few minutes to understand what exactly is the significance of this ritual called Pradakshinam, and why do we do it only in a clockwise direction? Why not anti-clockwise? Why in certain numbers? First of all, we need to understand any religious practices, rituals mentioned in our religious scriptures are a perfect collaboration of the devotional, spiritual, but at the same time, the scientific aspects as well. That happens to be one of the reasons, even if you're an atheist, you still happen to follow certain religious practice or happen to visit a temple, at that it only benefits you. There's nothing for you to lose. The architectural aspects of Hindu temples is governed by a religious scripture called Agamasastra. We call it a religious scripture, but in fact, it's an engineering marvel, bringing in the right balance of physics, chemistry, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and whatnot, almost anything and everything. If you look at your screen for a moment, this is how uh, a typical architecture of any Hindu temple would look like. Historically, these temples were not meant for just devotional and spiritual purpose alone. These are built as energy centers and healing centers, and the architecture of the temple complements the purpose too. You see on your screen, starting with Artha Mandapa, or from where the devotees enter, then to the mandapa where the devotees have an opportunity to be seated and spend some time, and the main deity is contained in Garbhagruha, and above the Garbhagruha you have space, Shikara, which is some empty space for some radiation, air, everything to be circulated, and above that Kalasa, which is the powerhouse, the major radiation reservoir or a positive energy reservoir of the temple. And of course, when it comes to the elevation of where the temples are built, you see on the image on the left, there are certain constraints with respect to what must be the relative elevation of each of these uh, blocks of temple with respect to one another. And even if you look at South Indian temples, there might be some customization with respect to the geographical constraints as well as the belief systems of certain ethnic groups. But the primary aspects of the architecture of the temple more or less remains the same. On the bottommost image on the right, a few kalsas mounted on the top of the gopuram. These serve two purposes. A social purpose, I can say. People used to save certain grains, important grains necessary for the survival of the society in those. So, in case of natural calamities, uh, imagine entire village uh, gets flooded, and past flood, when they have to re-establish their way of living, when they have to start cultivation again, they can pick the grains from these gopurams. And the scientific angle is known to each one of you. They absorb a lot of positive energy from the atmosphere. And of course, the composition of the grains in certain ratios that are maintained in these kalashas on the top of the gopram, they complement uh, the positive energy too. The architecture of these temples is analogous to the way our human body is organized. As you see on your screen, from a spiritual standpoint, it's believed that the basic elements of a human body, like fire, water, vacuum, etc., etc., the way these are organized and balanced of these energies uh, is happening in our body at seven chakras called the spiritual centers within our body. Similarly, the energies in the temple are balanced through various aspects of the temple. As you see at the Muladhara chakra of a human body, we have Dvajastambham, and many other details. If we have to get into the architectural aspects of these temples, it would need another 100 to 150 videos to cover all those. But we'll try to touch upon some basic stuff in this video. As per our architectural guide for Hindu temples called Agamasastra, thousands of principles behind various aspects of the temple are primarily classified under seven categories. The first part is called Bhu Pariksha, which is about spotting the right location for constructing a temple. Um, Several factors were altitude from the sea level and the average temperature, wind, the frequency of rainfall. Several other aspects will be considered in that, and also the soil testing. The physical and chemical attributes of the soil is also examined. The second part is Sila Pariksha. It's about choosing the right stone, or if not the stone, even if it's a metal, choosing the right metal for the idol. Next, Karshana. They also perform a field energy test. The electromagnetic energy in the respective area and also within the soil is tested by performing corn harvesting in that area for a period of 1 year. Based on the outcome of the harvest, it will be determined whether a temple can be constructed in that area or not. The next aspect is Salyodhara, which is about clearing some blockers for the field energy. As I mentioned, these temples are meant as the energy centers. They always ensure there is enough passage for these field energies. Just in case if there are any human remains or animal remains like bones, nails in the soil or in that area, they will be just cleared out so that the passage for the electromagnetic energy is freed up. The next aspect, Talamana, also called Indian iconometry. If you are a mechanical or civil engineer, you could easily correlate to this term. If I'm asking an engineer, if I give you a titanium cylinder of certain diameter and it has to withstand a load of 2000 kilos, what must be the ideal length of the cylinder? An engineer would do some analysis and say, okay, go for 4 times the diameter or 5 times the diameter. Exactly analogous to that is the Stalamana. In Hindu temples, every dimension of the temple, whether it is with respect to the distance between the primary deity to Dvajastambha, the distance between the primary deity to the entry point of the temple, the height at which kalsas are mounted, the altitude of the gopram, or the length, width, and height of the garbhagruha, all these are somewhere or the other tied to the dimensions of the primary idol. It can be like 20 times the height of the primary deity, or maybe 5 times the width of primary deity. It can be various multiples, but at the end of the day, there are certain governing principles behind each dimension of the temple, which again ties back to the primary deity. Coming to Garbhanyasa, which is the ultimate science behind the temple architecture. Right beneath the primary deity of a temple, which is called Mulasthanam, there are copper plates along with the right combination of iron, cobalt, and nickel buried underneath. These, with the magnetic permeability, absorb the electromagnetic field from the earth, and they have a tendency to dissipate this within the Garbhagruha. Meanwhile, there are kalsas mounted at the top of the Garbhagruha. They absorb certain energy too from the atmosphere and they reflect certain energies. Hence, there is a lot of reverberation of heat, electromagnetic, as well as sound happening within the Garbhagruha, complemented by some chemical energy coming from the fragrance of the flowers and also burning camphor within the Garbhagruha. This energy that is constituted in the Garbhagruha, when the doors of the Garbhagruha are open, this energy dissipates into the mandapam, and hence the devotees standing within the temple premises tend to experience the positive energy. While Garbhanyasa deals with the enhancement of the positive energy, it can be heat, it can be electromagnetic, it can be sound. It's equally important that this energy is properly channelized and the devotees in the temple are benefited out of it. So there are also certain inductive regulations how to ensure this energy is inducted by the devotees in the temple is also covered in this Agamasastra. Because of this, you see in certain temples, men are allowed to enter only without the shirts to ensure the energy is inducted properly. And also, women are encouraged to wear more and more ornaments to ensure there's a lot more reverberation happening within the premises. And of course, certain temples have a recommendation on certain uh, clothing made of certain materials. And also, in all the temples, it's recommended that we walk barefoot because obviously the permeability to these radiations through the skin is a lot higher than rubber, plastic, leather, or whatever it is. Things like ringing bells, playing musical instruments, chanting mantras, these further enhance this reverberation process and make the energy a lot more intense. This is also dictated by this Agama Shastra. Now that you understand the ultimate funda behind this ritual Pradakshinam is just to absorb the positive energy field at various positions in various directions in the temple. Now to answer the question on why Pradakshinam has to be done only in the clockwise direction, why not the anti-clockwise? Just memorize Maxwell right hand thumb rule or in your physics lessons, probably from 6th or 7th standard. In an electromagnetic field, if you are creating a disturbance in line with the direction you can fold your fingers of your right hand, the ultimate energy is destined in the direction of your thumb. So imagine if you are by chance performing a Pradakshinam in the anti-clockwise direction, then your disturbance is in this direction and the resultant electromagnetic field will be destined in the upward direction. But in the temple, the energy is in the Garbhagruha and also concentrated at the top in the Kalasa. So you perform the Pradakshinam in the clockwise direction and the disturbance is in this direction of your fingers and your thumb is pointing downwards. So the ultimate energy is concentrated downwards. As a result, you get benefited out of that energy. You have an opportunity to captivate the energy field. Now coming to the point, how many Pradakshinams is the ideal thing to do? There is absolutely no evidence in any religious literatures stating what is the ideal number of productions to be performed as such. People come up with their own numbers. Neither there is any scientific reason behind the count of these productions as such. Maybe it all started with the intention of few people, that okay, however small may be the temple, at least performing three Pradakshinams would make the person be in the premises for 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe people who wanted to spend longer in the temple might have come up with some bigger count as a mandatory number of Pradakshinams. Coming to how to count these Pradakshinams, few people count by fingers, few people count by stones, few people count by nuts, few people count by using beads. As per Agamasastra, there is no such guidance on how to count these Pradakshinams. Maybe people have chosen some objects for the counting just to get away from the stress of counting the numbers. Other than that, there's no such evidence as such. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Please like and share this video. Thank you.